Hey guys, take a look at this photo. You can see how the light is looking. Now, I don't want to show you this inside of Maya because I want to show you how to do this. That is the reason why I am showing you only the render photo or the final render. Now, if you look at it, you can see the kind of lighting we have, how interesting the light is looking. The model is properly lit, the background is properly lit, and it is properly separated from the background itself. Now, if you can achieve this kind of light using 3D, why do you have to go on and try to do all these later in Photoshop? Well, today I want to show you guys how to achieve this kind of light. This is not all about teaching you how to light, but it is teaching you how to get creative with your lighting. That is what today's video is all about. Let's just get right into Maya. Okay, so here we are in Maya. This is the model we are going to be using. I modeled this sometime about last year. It is just for practice. And my Maya interface is completely different compared to the last video you guys watch. I know if you have that interface, that workspace, go ahead and use it. This is Maya 27, and I did not import my preference from Maya 26 only here. So let's just get started. I'm going to work on that later. All right, this is the model we are going to be making use of. The first thing I want to do is to create a backdrop for this model. Now, before creating the backdrop for this model, I need to decide how I want my lighting to be, how I really want this to be. Now, if you if you want to have full control over the kind of light you have on your scene or the way you light your model, you want to avoid dumb light and you want to avoid, I guess, physical skylight. These two lights you want to avoid them because the sky dome light or the physical sky, it's going to create an ambient light for you. Not that it's bad. It is not bad, but it is a great start. But this is all about getting creative on the kind of way you are going to light your scene. Now, this is really going to be good for product modeling. That is, if you're into product modeling, product animations, and so on, you can do that. Enough of the yapping. So first, let's create a backdrop for this model. I'm just going to create a rough backdrop, shift right click and add plane. No, not a plane. Shift right click and add a cube so that everything is going to be fast. Hit on R, scale this cube just a bit. Maybe, yeah, let's scale it just a bit like this. And then let's scale on the Z axis and on the X axis to make it a little bit big. Okay, this is fine. Let's go into the face mode, select this, and right here, and we'll delete them. Okay, this is good, but not that good. So we just go into the object mode. If you see something like this is not about modeling, but if you see something like this, you just want to reverse the face. So select that, hold on spacebar, go to display, and no, go to mesh display and reverse. That is it. Now we're going to select this and the grid, we don't need the grid for now. So we're just going to turn the grid off from there. We are just going to try and align this with our model. So we can go into let's go into the side view. That is more clear for us to see. And we can just use it to align the model. And we go back into the perspective. Doesn't really matter if it's going out. It's not really about that right now. So maybe I can shift this back just a bit, or maybe scale it up so that we have lots and lots of space. Now I'm going to select, I'll go into the edge mode, select this part here, hit on W and just drag it up. Now I'm going to drag it up just like this. Come down here, select that, hit on Control B to bevel and add segment to it. Probably reduce the fraction to something like this. Okay, this works. Let me turn on, where is that? Anti-aliasing. Okay, now we go into the object mode. We need to set a camera that we are going to use to view what we are doing. So to create that, we go over to create, come down to cameras and camera. All right, that has created a camera for us. So we have it right here, camera. Now, if you are rendering real time working on the project, you want to rename the camera. And I'm actually going to rename the camera so that we are going to find this easily when we go into the render settings. I'm just going to name this test, and that is fine. Now we go over to the top here, go into the render settings. From here, inside of the render settings, we just want to scroll down to this part here. I want this to be a little bit clear, but let's say we can leave this. We can leave this with the default settings. We're just going to select the camera from here. Maybe we can make this a HD. Okay, let's leave it this way. We can just work with this since we are not rendering this. So let's just close this. Now, what we need to do is to go over to our panels from here, perspective, and select the camera. When we select the camera, it is going to put the camera in view. So the camera is currently at the back. I think we are at the back of our model. So we're just going to work with this because Z is facing backward. So we're just going to work with this just like that. Now we go here, turn on the resolution gate, and probably let's just get this exact size. Now we want to focus more on the model itself, just like this. But before we proceed and start doing everything, what we are going to do is to go to our panel and come to this part that says tear off copy. So we're going to click on that, tear off copy. Now we'll go into the main viewport right here. We'll go back to panel perspective and switch this to perspective camera. Now we have our camera here. Anything we do here will not affect anything here. So what we are going to do now is to scale this backdrop to make it feel our camera right here. So we're going to hit on R to scale, and we're going to scale this up to fill our camera. Now we can go into the camera view from here and try. Let's click off. Let's see here, something like this is fine. Now we can zoom in just like that. To make it big, we can just scale this up. If possible, you can just move this into another monitor. That is really going to help. Okay, so this is, yeah, that is what we are going to use now as the main view. So I'm just going to select the model here, hit on E and hold on J and just rotate about 30 degrees, just like that. This works. This camera is on the way, so I think I can go to view and go to where is that? Where is that? Is that I'm going to show, and let's see, not here. That should be here. Show, none, show all. Okay, show viewports, and let's look for camera, and let's uncheck camera. Camera is hidden right now. Okay, now here comes the fun part. How are we going to light this? Let's look at the other photo, which is this one right here. If we want to use this kind of lighting, well, first of all, we need to break this down. Looking right here, it feels like we have a gradient. Well, it is not a gradient. The kind of light we have there is two light. We have a pink light and we have a yellow light on top of it, and lots of control on this lights right here. Now, let's try to replicate this. But first thing we need to do is to light our model. How do you choose to light your model? It really depends on you. Now, there is no texture on this model. We are just going to work with the ordinary, the default material in Maya. Okay, so we need to start creating light. We need to go over to Arnold and create an area light. So we're going to click on that, create an area light. W, let's just drag this up. Like I said, depending on how you want to light your scene, how you choose to light your scene. I'm not showing you how to light your scene. This is all about getting creative with your light, creating stunning look with your lights. And I'm not going to try to be accurate with all the whole light scale, but make sure you keep all this in mind. If you're scaling the light, make sure everything is accurate, except you choose not to make everything accurate. Now I'm just going to hit on E, hold on J, and rotate it just like this. Hit on R, and I'm going to scale it up just like that. Make sure that it is in the middle properly and it is at the back. So let's bring this forward, facing that part of our model. and let's just take this up just like that. Hit on R, let's just scale this up, W, and let's take this up. Okay, this is looking good. Now let's go into our render view. So from here, let's click on the renderer and let's switch to Arnold. Now, while this is rendering, you can see that we can't see anything even in the render view. Why? That is because we've not configured the settings of our light and we need to work on that. So let's switch back to viewports. You can select this and you can also turn on the lights in your viewport so that you can see what is going on. Making use of this button right here, when you click on that, it is going to turn on the lights in your viewport. Now you see that we just have a subtle effect of these lights on our model. Now to work on this light, let's go into the attribute editor, select the area light, and let's come down here and make sure that we have area light shape 1 selected. When we select that, it is going to give us the options of the light. Now, again, this is not about lighting, how you are going to configure your light settings and so on. The way you configure your light setting depends on you. So let's come down to this part here. First thing I'm going to uncheck is normalize. I'm going to uncheck normalize. Now, when I uncheck normalize, you can see what is going on. We have something good right here. Now we can go into the renderer and hit on Arnold. Let's see what is going on. Now we have a great start. This is looking good. We'll lead our subject from the top and it is looking amazing. So good. But I think we need to increase the intensity of this light so that we have something brighter. So now we can just go back to viewport, come down to the intensity, and let's take the intensity up to 2. Let's just put it that way. And now let's come back here and go to viewport, Arnold. Now this is looking more brighter than what we have before. And of course, it's not going to be brighter than this on every other part of our subject because we have this canopy covering the light from other parts. Now you can also see that from your viewport right here. It is covering all this part right here and so on. But there is enough light here in our scene than the way it is in the viewport. Well, that is giving us a sign that we need to create another light. Now you can also go over to the exposure. The exposure is just more of the intensity multiplier. So I can just go to 0.5 for the exposure and that is going to take the lights up again. But I really don't think I want to make use of the exposure, but I'm just going to keep it out. Most of the times I don't make use of exposure while I am lighting, but this is fine. Now let's go back to viewport. We'll go into our scene again and we create another area light. So the first thing I want to do is to make sure that I make use of 3-point lighting first to make my model properly lit. So now I can hit on W and just move this backward, hit on R. I'm going to scale this up. And of course, you see that the light is facing the opposite direction. That is because we are facing the back. When you look here, you can see that we are facing the back. So you don't need to worry about that. But let's just focus on what we are doing. So we're going to hit on E, hold on J, and rotate this backward just like that. Now we're going to move this to this part here. You want to rotate this for the 5-degree so that it is going to face this part of your model. But I am not going to be rotating for the 5-degree exactly because again, this is not about accurate lighting. It's about getting creative with your lighting. So I'm going to bring this back and just like this. Now I'm going to hit on E, hold on J, and rotate this till I find out that it is facing my model properly. Okay, this is facing my model properly, looking good. Now, before we go into the render view, as usual, we're just going to turn off the normalize. So I'm going to hit on and check that, enable the on, turn off the normalize, and this is looking good. So we go into the render view, Arnold, and let's see what we have here. Perfect. Now we have a nice lighting on our model, but it is not as bright as it is supposed to be. So we need to make it bright. Now, to make this bright, we need to go over to the intensity. We can take the intensity all the way to 2.5, or maybe we can say 3, depending on what you want. But I think 2.5 works for me a little bit, but not really. So let's go for 3 as the light. Okay, this is looking a little bit good. And I can take the intensity to about 1.5 And let's just see what we have here. All right, this is perfect. This is looking good, but it's looking a little bit blown out here. So it depends on you how you want the lights to be, and you can control this from your render settings when you are about to render. But this is blown out. That is not what I am aiming for. So I can just set this to 1, and this is a little bit okay. If we need any adjustment, we can come back later and adjust these settings. Now we need to create the last light. And secondly, this is not big, and I'm going to hit on R and scale this just like this to expand the light just that way. I heard most people say it is not good to scale light this way, but find out if that is accurate. Go ahead and do it. And if it's not, sometimes it's not about what is professional, it's about what works. You don't always have to follow the professional method of doing this. It's all about what works. But that's not what we're talking about. So let's go back to viewport. Now we need our final light that is going to lit this part here, something like the field light. Now we create another area light. Hit on W. We'll bring this back here. Take it up. Hit on R, and we're going to scale this up just like this. Hit on E, J, and rotate this here just like that. That works. Hit on W. We can move this here, and we can take it. I think not okay, not okay. So let's bring this back here. Let's hit on R. Let's scale this up. And keep in mind, just know that the pivot that it's not accurate like this, you can edit the pivot. When you hit on D to go into the pivot mode, you can just right click and hit on reset pivot, or you try to adjust the pivot yourself. It is going to adjust it. It is going to adjust. So when it adjusts, you can just use it to control the light the way you want to control the light. And when you adjust it, just hit on D. You can now see that we have the pivot the way we want it to be. And by chance, it might change later. When you go off and select that, you can see it's a reset back. But that is going to give you a whole lot of control on what you can do. So let's scale this just like that. Maybe just like that. That works. Now again, let's turn off the normalize. Let's go into the renderer and select Arnold. So let's see what we have this time. Awesome. Our model is properly lit and it is looking good. At this point now, you might want to introduce a skydome light, or you want to introduce a physical skylight. If you introduce a skydome light, it is going to light up every other part of your scene, making it look amazing. Now, let me show you how to mix this with the skydome light, or this light we have right here. So let's go out of the viewport. Now we're going to create a skydome light, just like that. So here we have the skydome light. Normalize is still checked. The intensity is very high. Now, when you look at our scene in the viewport, you can see that it is blown out completely. Let's go into the render view from here. Now take a look at this. You can see how the scene is blown out. It is properly lit, but it is completely blown out. Now, how can you control this skydome light to make it work with the other light? The normalize is checked. Awesome. We're going to leave the normalize that way. So let's go back here. Let's set this to viewport. Now let's come down to the intensity. Let's take the intensity down. We can say 0.2, 0.2 as the skydome light. Now let's go to render and let's switch to Arnold. Now let's see. Okay, take a look at this. It is not doing a lot, but it is doing something. When you look at the environment, you can see now that it is looking good. It is properly lit up and not that dark the way it is before. You can proceed to do anything else you want to do. So for now, what I'm going to do is select the skydome light, hit on H to hide the skydome light. For now, we don't need it. Now, here comes the fun part. If we want to create something like this, which is what we have at the back, how do we create something like this? This is where you need to get creative and you really need to get technical. Now, if you're looking at this part right here, this has nothing to do with light in Maya. This is just a basic material in Maya that I used to match the background. Now, light like this, how can you achieve that in Maya? So now, create another area light. When you create another area light, okay, this is rendering. That's why I have a little bit of lag. When you create another area light right there, so let's select the area light. This time, we don't want to make it face the model itself. We want to face it to the backdrop itself. So we're going to hit on E, hold on J, and we are going to rotate this just like that. Let's be sure it is facing the wall completely. All right, it is facing the backdrop completely. Now we can hit on W and move this right here. Hit on R. Let's scale this up very well. Now, how do you want this light to look? Do you want this light to just face that part, or you want this light to leak into the other part of your backdrop? Well, if that is what you want, you need to hit on E and also rotate it to look that way to hit those part of your backdrop. Now I'm going here on W, select the light, take it forward a little bit to be behind my model. Now here comes the main secret of this technique. We are going to change the color of the light. So first, let's uncheck the normalize, which is what we have here. Let's uncheck the normalize. Now what we are going to do is to come down to the intensity and increase the intensity first. But before we increase the intensity, let's change the color. What kind of color you want to use for the light? Is it pink? Is it red? Is it yellow? Or is it blue? Is it anything? Whatever it is you want to use, that is what you are going to do. So let's say I want to use let's just use pink in case, but not that kind of pink. I want this to be more of the reddish pink here. Something like this is awesome. Now we have the intensity set to 1. So let's go into the renderer and let's hit on Arnold. Let's see what we got. Now look at this. Look at this. You can really see how good this is looking. It is looking nice, but not as bright as it is supposed to be. Because number one, there is no material right there. That is one thing you need to keep in mind. There is no material. So you just have to keep that in mind. No material that is really going to make the light reflective and so on. And secondly, the intensity is very low. So we can come down here and let's set the intensity to about 2, and let's hit on enter. Okay, now when we set the intensity to 2, you can see how good this is looking from behind. Looking amazing. Now we need to create another of this light. If you want to achieve this kind of grading right here, we need to mix two light. We need to get creative, like very, very creative. So let me take this down. I'm going to select this light. Let's go back to the renderer and switch to viewport. I'm going to select this light, hit on R. I'm going to scale it along this part and scale it down just a bit. Now let's go back into the Arnold render and let's see. Okay, this is looking good. Now it has spread over to the parts where I want this to spread. You can see that we have leaks here in the viewport, but we don't have it right here. That is just the lighting in the viewport. Maybe there are other settings we can do that can make the light really look good or not. For now, let's just focus on this. So now let's go back to the Arnold renderer, the viewport renderer. So how can we achieve that kind of light that we have there? So now the point is creating another light. That is what we need to do. And all this is happening close to our model, but I'm just going to leave it that way. But in case you are working on yours, you have to give lots of space when you are working on this. You can see that we don't have much space here. This is not about modeling or adjusting or trying to make everything perfect. This is about you getting the main idea itself. Again, I've said this, I don't even know. I've lost count of how many times I've said that. Now let's create another area light. Let's hit on W. Do I have what is going on right here in my viewports that is making it lag? So now let's hit on R. Let's scale this light. Scale the light. When we scale the light, we're going to hit on E, hold on J, and face it, okay, to that same location where we have the previous light. Now this is completely hitting the model itself. So we're going to hit on W and we're going to take this forward just like that. Now this is facing that particular part right there. Now what color do you want to use for this? So we use pink for this. Maybe we can use yellow, just like what we see here. And now we can select that light. When we select the light, we uncheck the normalize. We go into the intensity and we select yellow. And let's make the yellow a little bit orange. Let's go close to something like that. Yeah, that works. Now that is looking good. We can go into the renderer and select Arnold. And when this come up, now take a look at this. This is looking good, but we have a little bit of an issue. Number one, the light is a little bit higher. We need to bring the light down. And secondly, it is too spread. It is spreading too much, and we don't want that. We want this to be like in the middle to create that kind of radial gradient. I don't know if you get the idea of what I'm talking about. So let's go back into viewport. First, let's hit on the view and bring the slide down just like that. Now we've solved one of the problem. Let's go into the renderer. Let's select Arnold. Now the light is down. So what if we want to control this light? We want to control this light to feel like it is in the middle, just in the middle. Now, how are we going to do that? But before we do that, I want us to do something. So let me switch this back to viewport. Let's select this light, hit on E, hold on J, and let's rotate this again, just like that, so that it is going to spill over to this part of our scene. So now I can go back and select Arnold as a renderer. Okay, this is looking a little bit good. We can work with that. We can also add an extra light here to just complement it if you wish to. Now, how are we going to do that? Now, to do that, we need to, let's go back to viewport. Let's come down to the part that says, where is it? I hope I still remember that part. So let's say, yeah, the part that says spread and light is currently set to quad. The part that says spread, let's reduce this a bit. Now I'm going to turn on my renderer down. I'm going to switch to Arnold renderer as I adjust all this. Might freeze my viewport. I didn't have ours, but it doesn't really matter. We're just going to work with that. Now let's reduce the spread. Oh my god, I am reducing the spread of the pink light, but what I want to reduce the spread of is the yellow light. So let's come down to the spread. Let's reduce the spread just like that. Now you can see as I'm reducing the spread, it is facing only one particular area. But the problem now is we are having that square shape, the shape of the light. Now we're going to come to quad and change it to cylinder. No, not cylinder. We're going to change it to disc. All right. Now we change it to disc. We're not going to have that edge, that harsh edge, just like that. And there are other ways we can also make that. Like so now you can see you can do this the way you want. Now you can see that we have something like a spotlight there. That is, if you want to fake this, you can go ahead and do that. But I don't want this to be that way. So I want it to spread just like that. Now, if you find out that it is covering the main light you have there, you have two ways of fixing that. You can go over to the intensity and you can reduce the intensity. Maybe we can say 0.5, or you can select this one, go over to the intensity and say 2.5, or maybe you can take the intensity higher, more than what you have. Now, take a look at this. Let me go into the light editor, which is right here. Is that a light editor? Yeah, light editor. Now, let me turn off this light, this and this. Let's turn off the second one. Okay, that is off. Take a look at this thing. Look at how boring this thing is looking. It is not bad, it is good, but look at how boring this thing is looking because we just have the normal white lights right there. So let's turn on the pink light first. When we turn on the pink light, look at this. Looking so nice, looking amazing. And now when we turn on the yellow light, look at this. Looking so sweet, isn't it? Now let's select the skydome light. Let's hit on Shift H to Control Shift H, where I'm correct. Okay, so we have the skydome lights there right now. Now the skydome light is there. We need to go back and reduce the intensity, but it lights up this extra part of our scene. Now, if you don't want the skydome light, you can just go ahead and turn off the skydome light. It doesn't really matter. So let's select the skydome light. Let's go into the intensity. Let's say we want this to be 0.1 and hit on enter. Now take a look at this. What is going on right here? How does this look? You can now see that this looks more better, amazing, nice, wonderful than what we have as than what we have when we make use of just the normal white lights in Photoshop. Now, if you want to go crazy, you want to go more dramatic on this, We can now say we want to introduce a code tune into our scene by coming down to the color temperature of the sky dome light. So we come to the color temperature right here, click on use temperature. Now we're going to, we don't want this to be yellowish, so we're going to add a little bit of warm into the scene, just like that. Now, look at this. We have the white light there, but the white light is no longer strong like the way it is supposed to be. Why? Because we have added other lights that really make our scene to look so much interesting and amazing too. Let me take this up to add more temperature to this. Maybe make it a little bit bluish so that you can see what is going on here. Take a look at this, how amazing this is looking. So if you are making use of just the normal lights before, my friend, try to make use of the friend light. Create something nice, create something interesting. Play around with the intensity, play around with everything. Now, if I uncheck the normalize on this Kydom light, it will go crazy, really crazy. But let me scale this up so that we see what we are working on. So now take a look at this. Awesome, isn't it? So nice. This is our scene. But let me move this to this part here. Let me turn off the viewport lights and let's take a look at this. Let's go to show viewports and where the lights, where are lights. So we have lights. Let's hide the lights right now. So look at this. This is our scene. This is our scene, the original scene. And look at the render. How this is looking. Well, you have to be the one to rate this yourself. But my friend, that is it on how you can creatively light your scene in Maya, not just in Maya, in any other 3D program. So if you have been doing this the simple way, you're trying to play safe, my friend, go wide. Make sure you have a backup of your document. When you have a backup of your document or of your scene, it's not in Photoshop, it's Maya, of your scene. When you have a backup of your scene and just play around with everything and everything will look good. Imagine we have a texture on this model. I don't want to start importing textures again. That is why I just leave it that way. So imagine we have textures on this model. How amazing this is going to look. How beautiful. How nice. Or we have something like a material on this backdrop we added here. How amazing this is going to look. Now, aside from all this, think of how this is going to look when you create the final render. If that helps you, make sure to hit the subscribe button, not just the subscribe button, ring the bell icon so that you, my friend, don't miss any tips and tricks I will be posting. I won't say every week because I don't meet up with every week. But don't forget, we have a Telegram channel where you guys can suggest tutorials that we can make. I'm trying as much as I can to put up my teams together. When we have all my team, I think I can come back and start making video consistently like I used to do before. But aside from that, see you guys in my next video and make sure that you stay creative and keep lighting.